Hi, and welcome back. I know you've all submitted your Quest ones. I haven't had a chance to look at them. I'm actually recording this on Sunday morning. Um, I'm a little bit behind because of the holiday weekend. I've got a house full of guests. So what I wanted to do this morning was just go over um, your common sizing assignment. You've all got your grades. You've all got comments from me on your common sizing assignments, but I wanted to talk about the things that sort of everybody in the class missed, and also use as an example Binner's submittal. And um, Binner, thank you for doing such a very clean job on your common sizing formatting. I just want to show everybody what good formatting looks like and how easy it is to read. So this is Binner's submittal, and most of you had the same information, but Binner formatted it in such a way that it's very, very easy to read. So on your left here, you have Kirby for 3 years, the balance sheet. On the right, you have Tidewater. You have color-coded columns, which makes them much easier to read. You have lines across here, graph lines across, so you can follow, your eye can follow across. You have the percentages carried out to 2 decimal places, which is more than adequate. And everything is really easy to see, so you can see where your assets and where your liabilities are, and you can compare Kirby to Tidewater quite easily. So that is a really, really good way, and we can move down here to the liabilities and equities portion of the balance sheet. Really easy to understand. Many of you did ratios for Tidewater. It's key that you're looking at the ratios, and I actually hadn't looked at their financials when I assigned this. I hadn't looked at their 2016 financials, and when I started correcting papers, I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, wow, people missed something here. So first of all, Tidewater has a huge amount of cash. Why do they have so much cash? Well, they have so much cash because they have so much current liabilities. They have so many dollars that they have to pay back very soon, within a year, of which $2 billion is the current portion of long-term debts. They have $2 billion that they have to pay back this year. So that raised all sorts of flags for me. It's like, wow, how can they do this? And if you'd done your current ratio, you would have seen that they had a current ratio of 0.5, which means they have half as many current assets, things that are going to turn into cash within a year, as current liabilities, things that they're going to have to pay within a year. So this is a huge difference and a real problem. So they went from twice as many current assets as current liabilities to half as many current assets as current liabilities. Got lots of cash, but they don't have near enough cash to pay their long-term debt, the current portion of their long-term debt. So how come the long-term debt all of a sudden is due? That was my question. So we're going to look at that. So just without looking at anything else other than this balance sheet, you say Tidewater has a problem. They are not generating very much cash from operations because their business is slow. They have, yes, a lot of cash, but not near enough cash to pay their liabilities. And where is the money going to come from to pay their liabilities? Well, they either have to sell assets, which are their vessels, and I think those of you who are in the maritime world know that right now they've got 70 or 80 stacked vessels. They got 70 or 80 vessels that there's no business for. Who's going to buy those? What is the marketplace for those vessels? So trying to sell vessels quickly to raise cash to pay your creditors is not an easy thing to do. So they've got $4 billion in assets here. Their overall balance sheet looks good. They've got total liabilities of 2.6, total assets of 5. That's pretty good, but their liquidity, what they have to pay right now, is really a problem. So where are they going to raise cash? They have to either sell assets, which in their case is primarily vessels, or they have to find somebody else to lend them money, or they have to get more equity. All of those things are problematic. They're in a severe cash crunch. They're in a severe downturn. Who wants to invest? Who wants to lend them longer term money? So then that's kind of the point that I wanted to make, is this is a very, very serious consequence for Tidewater. The other thing I wanted to point out was on the Kirby side. Kirby's financially much stronger, and most of you made that point in your analysis. And their business model is also stabler. Their revenues are down, but they're not plummeting like Tidewater's. But they've chosen to do something which is kind of interesting, which not many of you picked up on. They've chosen to sell or borrow more money and use that money. Most of you said they used it to buy new assets. Well, they did use some of it to buy new assets, but they used a lot of it to buy back their own stock. So they bought back $250 million of their own stock, 4 million shares, 2.9 million to 6 million, whatever that is, 3 million shares of their own stock. Why would they do that? Why are they taking corporate money, actually not even corporate money, why are they borrowing money and giving it to shareholders? Most students think of that as a conundrum. We're going to learn a lot about that in the second half of this course. What they're doing is they're restructuring their balance sheet, increasing their leverage to increase the return for their shareholders. So there's fewer shares outstanding. Their earnings per share are going to be better because they have fewer shares outstanding. And long-term debt for them was pretty cheap, so they're paying very low interest for their long-term debt. And then they buy back shares, which reduces the number of shares outstanding, which means that each share now has a bigger share of the company, and they're able to increase the return on equity. I asked many of you to do return on equity calculations. Return on equity tells you how well a company is using stockholders' money. Kirby, because they're buying back stock or paying back their shareholders, has less equity, so their return on equity, given constant income, would go up. So that's kind of the things you can take away that I didn't see a lot of you taking away from in your analysis. So Tidewater, serious cash crunch, affecting their possibility of surviving. And Kirby, very financially sound, but doing some financial engineering to improve the returns for their stockholders. So those are the two things that I think most of you missed, and it's important to pick up on these. So Binner, once again, I used your information. Hopefully that's okay that I shared it with the students, but it's very, very elegantly formatted, makes it really easy to read. And I would hope that all of you could do this. My intention had been that all of you could do formatting like this. Very, very good. So this morning I said I've got to go look at the 10K for Tidewater, which I haven't really looked at. And I went to the part about their loans. And their loans have a covenant, which they're in compliance with as of March 31st. But as of June 30th, they expect they won't be in compliance with. So they're supposed to have 3 times interest coverage, according to their revolving credit and term loan agreement, and their offshore debt, and their senior notes. So all of their long-term debt carry this 3 times minimum interest coverage, which means they have to earn 3 times or more than the interest that they are expected to owe. And they are in compliance right now, but they don't expect to be as of June 30th. When you violate a covenant on a loan, that loan becomes immediately due. So it goes from being long-term to being due now. So as of June 30th, the note holders could declare the company to be in default of their loan agreements and accelerate the indebtedness, which means they can demand payment on all their notes. So all of that's why all of that money that was long-term moved into short-term, because they're close to default. They expect they won't meet it during 2017, so they have reclassed their long-term debt to short-term. In addition, the report of the independent auditor here has doubts about their survival. So there's a portion of the internal auditor's report that says they have going concern concerns, which means that at that point the auditor says, we've audited everything, it looks okay, but we don't think this is a going concern, so therefore you can't rely on the balance sheet or the income statement because the company may go bankrupt. And when an auditor says that, there's lots of good evidence to that. Nobody picked up on that. It's in the auditor's statement, and it's here in the notes. It's a going concern explanatory paragraph because the forecast indicates that they won't be in compliance with their minimum interest coverage, and they don't have enough money to pay all that debt. So, as a result of the event of default caused by our failure to receive an audit opinion with no modifications, all of the company's indebtedness has been reclassified as a current liability. The explanatory paragraph in the audit opinion discussed above also references audit opinion related event of default under the various borrowing agreements as an uncertainty that raises substantial doubt about the company's ability to continue as a going concern. The company is trying to work with their lenders to waive the 3-time minimum interest coverage in the event. And then it goes on to say down at the bottom here, if lenders and note holders accelerate the company's outstanding indebtedness, the company's multiple borrowings become immediately payable, and the company will not have sufficient liquidity to repay those accelerated amounts. The company is unable to reach an agreement with the lenders and note holders. The company would likely seek reorganization under Chapter 11 of the federal bankruptcy laws, which would include restructuring of the company's various debt obligations and wiping out, doesn't say this, and wiping out probably 100% of stockholders' equity. So if you're a stockholder in TDW and they declare Chapter 11, you probably get nothing. The bondholders and the lenders will get something, well, probably not 100% of what they're owed, but the stockholders will get nothing. So this, nobody picked up on. This is huge. I mean, this company is on the ragged edge of bankruptcy. The financial statements, without reading this, the financial statements tell you that. So make sure when you're reading these things, and obviously if you were thinking about going to work for TDW, this would be a huge red flag that, hey, my company may not even be here in 6 months, or be going through bankruptcy, which is even if they're able to reorganize in bankruptcy under Chapter 11, they probably are still not a good place to work. So this is the kind of stuff that you needed to pick up on that everybody missed. And when I assigned it, I didn't know that they were quite this close to the edge of ruin. I used these same 2 companies a year ago, and the students and I talked about about TDW's liquidity issues, but now the liquidity issues have come to a head to the point of near bankruptcy. So I wanted you to hear that.